Okay, this is the story. I'm going to put this on my YouTube because, oh my God, when I'm done doing this, it's going to be crazy. Okay, I'm very frugal. I'm not cheap, I'm frugal. There's a big difference. And the big difference is cheap would say that like my taste is like I'm a tightwad. That's not it. I'm frugal. So anyway, today was this huge frustration. And I'll tell you how it all started. One day I was talking to my daughter and I was like, you know what? I really need to take a lot of ginger in because I'm sick. And I need to take a lot of ginger in, and the only thing I can think of making is ginger ale. And she was like, well, Mom, I worked for a brew company. Just go to a brew company and they'll tell you how to do it. And I'm like, well, I'll just buy a book. Because then the book will tell me all kinds of other stuff, and then I'll learn how to ferment stuff. Because basically ginger ale is fermented. Now you're thinking of the ginger ale like ginger ale soda pop. I was thinking about ginger ale like fermented ginger ale. Because I was sick. And I need to take a lot of ginger in. And ginger's really expensive here. Okay. But I'm frugal. So, anyway. One day I'm driving, and I see this. My hair's a mess. It's always a mess. Like, my hair's never done anymore like it used to be. Okay. So, I'm so excited right now. Okay. So, wake up to major frustration. I bought this book called Root Beer, Pops, and Sodas. Okay, so you would think in root beer, pops, and sodas that you would learn how to make root beer. Okay, not really. Okay, so that upset me. Because, okay, this is what happened. In my hot pursuit of trying to learn to make ginger ale, I learned to make it. And I seen this like brewing place, and I seen it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop in there. And so I stop in there, and I meet this guy, and he's really nice. And I'm like, well, I have a ginger bug. And he's like, oh, you're doing wild yeast. And I said, yes. And he said, so you've already made the ginger bug? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, if you use this glass thing with this apparatus, mix this in and use your recipe, boom, you'll have ginger ale. And I'm like, yay, frugal. So I leave there. I'm all excited. I got my rig for like $9. Now, I'm so frugal that I won't drive 20 miles and I'll figure out the gas amount and I'll go, well, that's not worth it, because I'll use this in gas, and so it will end up being the same cost. So over here it's cheaper, so I'll do that. But I love quality. So anyway, so I wake up this morning, and okay, so a few months ago, I was in the brewing company getting some more apparatuses and to make some other new stuff, and I see this root beer kit, and I'm like, what's that? And he said, it's a root beer kit. And the guy was a jerk. And usually the guys in the brewing company aren't a jerk because this can be a long video. Usually the guys in the brewing company aren't jerks because, and I'll tell you why, because they drink all day. So they're in the back room and it's like the supply part, but they're always like making some kind of like beer or champagne, and so they're always drinking. So they're really nice. Well, this guy was a jerk. And so I see the root beer thing and it says root beer. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a root beer book, but this might be like better quality because these guys are like brewers, and it was $12. So I make it, and call me stupid, but I literally thought I was making root beer, not the alcoholic root beer, the beverage. And he said I was making that. Well, come to find out, there's root beer syrup, and there's root beer, and then there's root beer, like beer alcohol. So I go in to make my root beer, and I'm thinking, if it's really good, then when my husband comes home and he wants a root beer float, he'll have his root beer. And so I'm going to make root beer, as in the beverage, as in I'm going to put it in bottles, and then I'm going to have it available to him, and then I'll find some way to jar it. So there was all these Grosh bottles and stuff, and I was like, no, not spending the money on it, because I'm frugal. This guy's a total jerk. So I get the kit. I come home, and it doesn't make any sense. It's this little muslin bag and like this bag of herbs. And it looked like little sticks and twigs. And then there was like this instruction sheet. And so I was like, oh, I'll do that in a couple days, because that didn't make any sense. Because I'm thinking I'm making root beer, the liquid, the like beverage, root beer. So anyway, I make the root beer syrup. And this is when it hits me that I'm making a syrup. It didn't even say that on the instructions. It was a root beer syrup. So now you need soda water to put in there to make it fizzy pop root beer. So I take my finger and I go like this, and I'm like, oh my God, that is the best root beer I've ever drank in my life. So in a process of a couple of months, I drink 4 quarts of this root beer. Now, in the meantime, I'm sick. I'm very, very sick. I have a chronic illness. And so my naturopath always says, whatever you crave, you need. Well, in this root beer were ingredients that was in the back part of the bag. And I see the ingredients, I'm like, oh. So I look it up because I was craving this root beer. And so I look it up, and all these roots, as in root beer, were things that heal you and help you with pain and help you with all this stuff. And so I was like, oh my God, my naturopath was right, which has always been the conundrum with him. He always knows what's wrong with me and what'll heal me. So I'm sucking down this root beer, and I drink this stuff I call the healing tea. And it's really good. For any of you that have chronic pain, chronic suffering, chronic UTI, any of that stuff, just let me know, and I'll give you, like, I don't know, give you the 911. So anyway, or the 411. So anyway, today I get up because I'm getting low on root beer, and I'm starting to panic. And I'm thinking, is this $12 kit serving its purpose? Or can I just buy the ingredients, being frugal, and when I get these ingredients, I can then thus go to the next level and have a ton of these ingredients, and then whenever I want to make a certain thing, I'll have one of the ingredients, which I can't give you the ingredients because I'd have to kill you. So, and this falls in with the story. So I drive over to my local organic store, which is out of the way, and my other one's up the street. So I go to that one if I want like some weird organic thing. But it's like the Walmart of organic. But this other place is like privately owned, and it's really cool. So I walk in there, and this guy's dressed like a chicken. I know. My stories are always funny. This guy was dressed like a chicken. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, today's my first day. And I said, ooh, I really want to work with you. And he started laughing. He goes, why? And I go, because I need all these weird specialty items. Now, mind you, I had spent 4 hours this morning trying to find a recipe for root beer syrup. So the other day when I was in Walmart, because somebody had said this to me, I seen the root beer syrup. So I grab it, it said organic, and I put it in my bag. And I go and I purchase it. It's like $3 a piece. And I come home, and I'm thinking, but nothing could be as good as the roots. I mean, but frugally, if it's $3 a piece, and I'm going to make 2 quarts out of each one, that's 2, 4, 6, 8 quarts. So maybe I am being a stupid ass. Oh, sorry, stupid butt. So anyway, I grabbed this root beer and I put it in the cabinet, and I've been making these fermented cheeses. I'm a fermenter. For anybody that knows me, I make kefir, kombucha. I make everything. I make dish soap, laundry soap. I make everything. I make my own food. I'm growing. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm making a sculpture. Like, literally, I have so much on my plate at all times. And I've always talked fast, so just try to bear with me because I'm really excited right now. So I bought these little bottles of root beer, and I thought, oh, Tim's coming home. I better hurry up and make some because I drank it all. And I look at the back of the ingredients, and it said propylene glycol. And I went, what? Propylene glycol is what they use in theater to make the smoke. I knew that because I was in theater. Number 2, propylene glycol is the chemical composition of vaporing. How do I know that, you may ask? Because my son owns a vapor company, but now he's organic, so he doesn't have that chemical. So when vaporizing just came out, it was propylene glycol, and there was huge controversy over ingesting it. Well, we used it in theater, and it used to make us cough and choke, and we barely got through the scene. So anyway, I see these ingredients, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm going right back to Walmart, and I'm going to tell my friends to shove it. Because the day I was making the root beer, this lady showed up to deliver flowers to me. And she goes, ooh, what are you making? And I said, oh, I'm brewing root beer. And she goes, oh, from the stuff at Walmart? And I said, no. I said, this is like the roots, the ingredients of that in a bag. And I looked in the back, and it told me the ingredients, but I didn't know how much of what. So I take off in a hot pursuit today because nobody has the ingredients list. I know. And you think it's really easy, go Google it right now, and you'll see. Everybody's using that imitation weird syrup, and they're showing you how to make it and put it in bottles. Okay, I just wanted the ingredients. Can somebody give me the ingredients? Well, sometimes there was like 12 ingredients. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because I knew in that little muslin bag, there was like 5 different ingredients. So I go, you know what? I'm going to go to the natural store. And I call my mom and I tell my mom I'm totally frustrated. And she's like, oh my God, why don't you just use that recipe right there that you found? And I was digging, and I found this one video, and I found this other guy who had a blog, and he said, try these 5 ingredients. And I told my mom, why would this root be used? And she was like, I don't know. And I'm like, Mom, why is this, like, how would that make it taste like root beer? But remember, I threw the package away. So I didn't have the package, so I couldn't compare the ingredients list. Well, I didn't know how much of everything. So I knew there was about 5 ingredients, and I was like, why do people put 12? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Now, I can ferment it. Fermenting is not an issue. It's like, give me the exact amount of ratios. So while I'm there, by the way, it's in my pocket, the guy named Matt that owns a company that sold me the original kit thing, you can message him, and he'll tell you how many of each. But I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, so I go to my natural store, and there's a chicken, and he's helping me. And we're going to look for everything, and I'm finding everything I need. But as I'm finding everything that I need, by the way, I got 2 sources. No, not just one, because I thought if I didn't like that root beer, I had the second source. Because sometimes people will literally like swap out roots, and it's like, why? That didn't make any sense. So anyway, I had these 2 recipes. I had them in my phone, and I'm like, I'll grab those, and I'll go get the ingredients, and I'll make 2 different versions, and then if whichever one I like the most is the one I'm going to give my husband when he gets here. So, being frugal. And so I knew Vitamin Cottage had this whole shelving area of like bag stuff. And I'm like, please let my stuff be there. Well, it was all there. And I was like, oh my God, I found my root beer. And the other ingredients too, for my second root beer. And so I grab all the ingredients, like $15. And the chicken guy's like, I love helping you. Like, you're so much fun. And we start talking, we become friends. So this other guy's walking by, and he's like, hey, manager guy, do you know if we have any stinging nettle? Because while I was there, I was going to be frugal again and make my own vegetable rennet to make my own cheese. Because I make my own cheese, but I have to buy the rennet. And I thought, why not make the rennet? Saving $1 again. And so I thought, it probably costs pennies. Kind of like my laundry soap. That smells better than anybody else's. If you want the recipe, let me know. I'll give it to you. But on certain things, I won't give you the recipe. So anyway, like my root beer. No, I'll make a video about the root beer. So anyway, I go in there, and the chicken's helping me, and I don't even know his name. And this other guy walks by, and he's the manager. And super cute, he had green eyes. And so he's standing there, and I said, do you have stinging nettle? And he goes, we have it in the capsule. And I said, I need like the herb stinging nettle. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, okay. And I said, hey, can I ask you another question? Do you like literally have to have a yogurt starter to make yogurt? And he goes, I don't do it with a yogurt starter. And I'm like, what? And he goes, no. He goes, just get 2 teaspoons, bring up the milk to 100 degrees. And I said, well, I want to use coconut cream. And he said, you can't, because it's antibacterial to kill the bacteria in the yogurt, and then you won't have yogurt. I was like, oh, okay. And he said, get some water, get some milk, like goat milk, the one that doesn't bug you, and get, like, I don't know, however much you want, and get it up to 100 degrees, and then add 2 teaspoons of yogurt, and then wrap a bunch of towels around it, and put it in your oven with the oven light, and keep it at 90 to 100 degrees for 12 hours, and it'll make yogurt. And I was like, perfect! Because they had non-GMO, no gluten, organic yogurt. And I'm like, yes, now I can make yogurt ice cream for Timmy. See, there's always a double entendre with me. Always a double reason why I'm making stuff. Frugal, my grandson, this, that, the other thing. So I'm totally psyched. So I leave there, and I'm just like, yes. And I said, well, I might as well stop at the brewing place because I need sarsaparilla. And the recipe called for sassafras, but there's a huge issue about sassafras. So I asked the brewing guy, and he was a young guy. And I was like, oh, thank God it's not the other guy that was a jerk. And I said, hey, I brought the kid here. See, if you're really nice to people, they'll help you. I was like, I bought a root beer kit here, and I'm trying to make that same replicated root beer. And I said, and it's just like sort of pissing me off because I don't understand like why coriander seeds would be in root beer. And he was like, well, because it puts off an orange flavor. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, but don't smash them. Just like, crunch them up a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay. So he takes me around the whole store, and we're just chit-chatting about all these really cool things that I can make. And he's giving me the inside scoop, which I love because I'm frugal. And so he's giving me all these like really cool things. So he goes to stand up, and and like we're chit chatting, and we've been talking, like we're buddies now. So now I have my second buddy, long hair, real nice young guy. And I said, this is pissing me off. I go, I had to go over here to Vitamin Cottage and talk to a chicken to get my ingredients. I go, I have to go check out 2 different recipes to try to find the one I love. I said, this is a nightmare and I need your help. And he's like, okay. And I said, by the way, I have a sourdough starter. And I said, it's really good and it's wild yeast and it's doing really well. And this other guy was standing there and he had like this long beard. You know those guys that look like bikers? No insult, but just sometimes they come off a little hard. And he was like, oh, I know all about wild yeast. And I was like, see, when people say things like that to me, I'm just like, yeah, right. Right? So, oh my God, I love the story. So he goes, oh, I know all about wild yeast. And I'm like, that's funny because they all use yeast. They use the actual packaged yeast to make their stuff. And I make wild yeast from ginger bugging, from fermentations. I make my own yeast. So I'm more of like a raw person. I don't want to get into that like pre-manufactured yeast stuff. And so he goes, oh, I'm all about wild yeast. And I said, oh, do you have a sourdough starter? And he goes, yes, I do. And I go, do you have the Frontier recipe? Because I'm competitive too. And so the young guy's just standing there like, ooh, uh-oh. She's confronting the guy. And I said, and he said, yes, I do. And I go, the Frontier Alaskan sourdough recipe? And he's like, no, not the Frontier Alaskan recipe, but I have my own because I'm a pastry chef. And I go, oh. I go, while we're talking about it, do you know how to get biscuits to rise in this stupid state? I've lived here for over 10 years and I can't get a biscuit to rise, including my mother, who is a professional biscuit maker. And he goes, well, and he turns his phone in the other direction because it's a secret recipe. Well, I have a secret recipe too because I make fettuccine Alfredo and I will not tell anyone how to make that. The only one that knows how to do it is my daughter. So I know all about secret recipes because I'm like that too. Like I have recipes and I won't give it up to anybody unless they're like really super tight with me. So, or they're cooking with me, and then I'll say like, this is what I use, and whatever. So he turns around and he's looking at his phone. And I go, is it the 3 to 2 to 1 ratio? Like, is it 3 parts flour to 2 parts, and 1 part of the... And he goes, the thing about biscuits here is that there's not leaveners like yeast, so you're going to have to tweak your soda and your baking powder. And I go, oh. Because me and Mom tried, and these things come out like hockey pucks. And we're good cooks and we're good bakers and we could never get this recipe and we were pissed. So he said, increase this, decrease that, do this, do that. I said, okay. And I said, well, thank you. And he said, and use buttermilk. And I said, well, I make my own buttermilk. And he goes, oh, like, and it was like 2 chefs, like, like it was crazy. So So I said, well, thank you for the recipe. I really appreciate it. I go, so you have fresh eggs, huh? And he goes, well, I'm moving to Virginia. And I go, ooh. I said, don't turn into Virginia trash. It's just a joke. It's a joke I have because my neighbors used to be from Virginia and they were horrible. So it was just a joke. And he just kind of gives me a look. And I said, just stay the Colorado that you are and you'll be just fine. It was just a joke. And he looked at me and he said, so he said, do you know what to do with that sourdough starter? And I said, not really. I go, because my husband's not going to be here till the 7th. And he goes, just dump out everything but 1 cup and then keep making it like every like other day. Throw some flour in the stir, and just keep it going. And then, and he's being all generous now. Okay. So he finally comes clean with his recipe except for the secret ingredients, which I don't need them. I just need a biscuit, if you know what I'm saying. And cornbread. I've never been able to make cornbread here either. It won't rise. It's like, mile high. He goes, well, you are 5,000 miles up. And I said, no, I know that. It's just that we've tried tweaking the recipe and it never works. And so anyway, he gives me the recipe. And then he makes a comment about the buttermilk. And I'm like, okay, I am in a heated competition with this drunk guy. And he has this long beard. It's like, so looks like a guy from ZZ Top, but a little more handsome. So anyway, a young kid and I are just like gabbing it up. We're talking about how to ferment stuff, how to make beverages, how to do all this stuff, how to make food, we are having the time of our lives. And this guy chirps in, so I said, okay, you want to play with us? Let's go. And so I end this whole conversation, and I could tell when I walked out, he was like rolling his eyes. And I'm like, whatever, I just gave you secret tips. Don't even go there, because I was teaching him how to make Mexican meat. because a lot of people think they know how to make Mexican food, but if you're not Mexican, you really don't know how to make Mexican food unless a Mexican taught you. So anyway, I walk out of there and I am just like full of myself, because not only did I find all my herbs for my healing tea, which means it's right there, which means if I get in trouble and I run out of my bulk, I can go over there. 2, I got my root beer recipe and I am super psyched because I have 2 recipes. 3, I figured out how to make biscuits again and cornbread and how to use the leaveners. 5, like I got so many secret tips you don't even want to know. And so he looks at me when I'm going to check out and he goes, well, because the guy was so rude to you last time, he said, do you want some fresh vanilla beans? And I mean, they were glorious. I could show them to you. They're like this long and they're just like sticky, sticky vanilla. And I'm like, thank you. Because real vanilla is like beautiful and creamy. And that's what's in root beer. And some other things, which I won't tell you because I can't give up the recipe yet. I'll make a video all about that. But I just wanted to tell you that sometimes when you're frugal and you make your own capsules and you make your own wipes and you make your own dish soap and your own laundry soap and your own this and your own that, and you're frugal and you're nice to people, you will get so much information. And for that, I'm proud. So when my husband gets home, he gets homemade feta cheese, he gets homemade whole milk cheese, he gets yogurt, which probably won't even want to eat it, but my grandson will. And my daughter loves yogurt. I get to make biscuits again. I get to make cornbread again. I get all these top insider secrets on, fermentations, which are like my passion. And they give me some other scoops on cheese making, and I gave them some scoops on cheese making. And I get to make this new ginger ale recipe, which I'm totally psyched about because I was messing up putting too much ginger in it. I am so psyched. So I go back to Walmart to give them their stinking syrup. And I said, by the way, the chemical composition of that is what's used in vaporizing. And I said, and my son owns a vapor company and he's organic and he doesn't even use those chemicals anymore. And that's just disgusting. In other words, you might as well just get that root beer syrup stuff, stick it in your vaporizer and vaporize root beer. You'll love it. But caramel color is not what's in a real root beer. A real root beer is refreshing and delicious, and it relieves your pain, by the way. So this video is for all the people that want to drink real root beer. Not the stuff from Walmart, not the stuff from Rite Aid, not the stuff from over here at Safeway. No, real root beer. And when I go to make it, I'll make a video. But I just want to tell you that sometimes being frugal and making your own healing tea, your own coffee, your own this, your own that, your own this, your own that, you'll bump into other people and you'll make friends. And at the end of that day, I feel so successful because I was so frustrated. I was so angry about this root beer. I just could not figure out for the life of me where this recipe was. And I Googled it and I YouTubed it and nobody knew what was going on. Well, now you do. I am in hot pursuit of making my own root beer. I'm now going to be able to make biscuits because he's a pastry chef, the guy with the big long beard. Yeah, pastry chef. And he told me a secret recipe on his cornbread, and I gave him the recipe on mine, and I gave him some Mexican food recipe, and he loved it, and he turned around and put it in his phone. And I made a friend, I made an enemy, and at the end of the day, I'm making my own root beer for about 2 cents a glass, which is, well, it's one of these, so it's like 18 fluid ounces of real root beer. And it's amazing, and it tastes delicious, and it's not the stuff you get in the bottle. So next time you go to buy that bottle at Walmart because you're saving $1, just go buy the stuff in the soda aisle and buy that crap, because it has propylene glycol, and propylene glycol is not nice, okay? Your kids don't need to smoke in like the theater. So that was my frugal day. I'm so psyched. I made friends, and one was a chicken. One was a chicken.